You're listening to the Ugly Truth Podcast with George and Christina Markoski, your weekly injection of science, insights, and myth-busting. For awesome info and trending content, go to theuglytruth.blog.
Hello and welcome back.
Welcome back to The Ugly Truth.
Now, today's guest, I'd like to introduce Alan McKenzie.
How's it going?
Hi, Alan. Welcome.
Excellent.
Welcome
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, next week, what's happening next week? This is
It's NAIDOC Week
Yep.
for Aboriginal people. So it's a day where Aboriginal people celebrate all our cultural practices and a lot of different things in communities across Australia. So yeah, it's a pretty big week from the 2nd of July until the 9th. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So as part of preparing for NAIDOC Week, we're going to have a chat to Alan about a lot of stuff. And obviously, with The Ugly Truth, there's a lot of science, myth-busting, and a bit of controversy, as always.
In everything in life, there always is. So yeah.
Yep. So Alan, you see yourself as an Aboriginal?
Yeah, I am a proud Aboriginal man. I come from a town called Griffith in New South Wales. I'm a part of the Wiradjuri Nation, which is a big tribe that takes up a lot of the land in New South Wales. So, I was born in that country, so that's my country where I'm from. Mm-hmm. But also, my tribe's made up of nearly, I think it's around about 380 to 450 tribes across Australia. So, yeah.
Okay, so there's about 350, 400 tribes across Australia. How big is your tribe?
Pretty big. I mean, there's a lot of different clans that span through New South Wales in that part of the state. So our tribe is one of the biggest and recognised in Australia as a very well-known tribe across Australia.
Okay.
So yeah.
So for people overseas, the Aboriginal people are they're the sort of original landholders of Australia and the original inhabitants, and there's been a lot of controversy, like with any other Indigenous culture, that's been overtaken by a white culture, and we're going to be talking about that today. Do any of your tribe actually live traditional?
Look, not at the moment. We don't have people that live out in the bush as it once was. Basically, through colonisation, a lot of that stuff's been taken away from us. Basically, with Aboriginal people being removed and placed into missionaries and stuff like that, and taken from the land as a part of the stolen generation. So basically, none of my people in my part of my country live like that anymore off the bush and off the land. Don't get me wrong, our people still do go out and hunt and do practices on the land, so they do perform ceremonies and do dances and go out and hunt for food and stuff like that. So yeah, they still do that stuff, yeah. Okay,
so let's talk about where it all started from.
Yeah.
So when did the first Aborigines sort of come to Australia? Where do they come from? What's the theory at the moment?
There's a lot of different theories. A lot of people say that we originated and come here from Asia, and then there's the theory that we come from Africa, and then there's the theory that we actually all in fact evolved from here in Australia.
Yes.
And I've actually heard that more and more often, so through universities and people that are studying that kind of stuff. So there's so many different theories. Look, personally, I'd probably tend to lean more towards the fact that we may in fact evolve from Australia. And the sheer fact is that with our artifacts and the tools and the stuff that we use off the land and paintings and stuff like that, they've shown a strong indication that we've been here for not thousands of years, but tens of thousands of years. So anywhere between 40,000+ years, and they're still finding stuff as we live today. So
yep.
Yeah.
So the Aboriginal culture in Australia is probably 40 or 50,000 years old.
Yeah, they say they say it's around about 40 to 50,000 years old. I tend to think it may in fact be older. Like people are finding remnants of the land all the time. So they're finding bodies such as the Mungo man, which was found over 20 something years ago, and the Mungo woman, and their bodies were carbon dated to be around about the 40 to 50,000 year mark. Whereas in fact they've actually found a body out towards near Cobar somewhere where they predict it may in fact be over 250,000 years old. So there's a lot of different things being found on the land from time to time. But absolutely, like there's always going to be stuff that is found not just here in Australia but across the world with different artifacts and remnants of civilization. So yeah,
Because there's a theory that we obviously come from Africa as well.
yeah.
So
I've heard that.
how would you say that contradicts the theory about us coming from Australia?
Yeah, look, I think there may be a strong connection that we may have evolved from here, from Australia, or may have evolved from somewhere else. I'm not going to debate that with people or anything, but I believe personally myself, like our tools and weaponry and hunting weapons that we've got are very similar in the styles of ceremonies, and even with the African people, they have a strong resemblance to Aboriginal culture. So with their spears that they'd make, they were using the similar processes for initiations and tribal markings and scarification and stuff like that. So,
And even in Papua New Guinea, they've got a lot of similarities.
Absolutely,
Yes, I
absolutely.
totally agree on that. However, you look at one thing about Aborigines.
Yep.
They invented the boomerang,
Oh, absolutely.
and now is there a boomerang in Africa?
Yeah,
I'm not
it's a-
too sure. I don't think so. I don't think there is. They've got arrows. I know for a fact that they've got spears and
Spears,
arrows
yeah.
and stuff like
'Cause-
that.
So,
No.
if people evolved in Australia,
Yeah.
they would have brought the boomerang with them.
Absolutely. So
And
they
the
would have
thing
taken it
is-
there.
Exactly. So the thing is, when you think about it, as far as I know, the only culture in the world that has got a boomerang.
Yeah, well,
is the Aborigines. That was quite innovative because a boomerang.
Absolutely.
Let's grab one.
Yeah.
Let's start.
Well, there's one there.
If you look at a boomerang, it looks like an airplane wing.
Absolutely.
And the way wings on an airplane work is, so you've got this part here which is straight,
Yeah.
and this part here is curved. So it actually takes air longer to go over this edge than it does on this edge.
Yep.
So it's aerodynamic.
So what that means is that the air under goes faster than this, and that causes lift.
Right.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And when you think about it, the Aborigines invented this who knows how long ago.
Oh,
I mean, where
thousands
was
of
the
years
boomerang invented anyway? That's
I'm not too sure where it was actually first invented, but I know for a fact that it's very old.
Wasn't there a tribe?
Yeah,
Or was that's the didgeridoo.
That's the didgeridoo.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
So
So
I had that wrong there. I was wondering.
No, you're right. Yeah, no.
So do all Aboriginal tribes have boomerangs?
Yeah, the majority of Aboriginal tribes all across Australia used boomerangs for hunting purposes. People think that they were just necessarily used for hitting birds one out in the sky. So, like, they'd throw a boomerang and they'd be so accurate to hit a bird.
You have to be very good.
So
to do
you
that.
have to be very good to do that. But in saying that, they did hit birds. I won't deny that. But they were actually used to scare and imitate hawks and eagles flying through the air to scare other birds down onto the ground, so they could use nets to catch them and stuff like that. So
Okay.
It was like a diversion.
yeah, like a diversion goal.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So they use that so they can get them down and use nets to catch the birds.
Yeah.
What about emus and kangaroos?
Yeah, with emus and kangaroos, they'd use a boomerang called a killer boomerang, which would actually fly vertically across the ground in a motion where it'd actually break the legs of kangaroos, emus,
That's cool.
and fast-running
And
animals.
then once they broke their leg, they're screwed. aren't
They're
they?
screwed. So,
Done
and then they basically finish them off with something which was called a nulla nulla, which is
at that.
called
That
a
looks like
stick.
a club.
It is a hunting club where
Looks
they'd finish them
pretty-
off with that.
Look
So-
at that. So that's sort of like, is that like a mallee root or something?
No, that's a piece of red gum timber that comes off the roots of a massive red gum tree.
Wow.
Off the river. So they'd make tools like
And
this.
they'd use that to smash it in the head and finish it off.
actually smash them over the head or finish the animal off and basically put the animal out of its pain and stuff like that and take what they need from it and whatnot. So,
What is the preferred method? Was it spear or boomerang?
it tends to be both. Aboriginal people used a lot of different items. I mean, killer boomerangs were used quite often.
So is this a killer boomerang?
Yeah, that's a killer
For
boomerang.
people that are listening to the audio, it's
Looks like
probably
a little baby hockey stick.
half a metre long and it's quite thick. And it's got some nice drawings and things on it.
So yeah, that's more of a
If you look at the killer boomerang, it actually hasn't
It's
got the
pretty
wing.
heavy duty.
It hasn't got the wing because it's got curved on both sides. Where this other boomerang we're talking about is actually aerodynamic.
Yeah,
Big difference then.
And it's and same as this one. I mean, that's what I wouldn't mind explaining to you is boomerangs would vary in shapes and sizes from tribe to tribe. So one tribe would have different boomerangs to another tribe. So that would probably exist in another part of a country, and this boomerang would, come from another part of country itself. So this would be used for the same purpose as a killer boomerang and do the same job as what that would do, but just different shape, and they'd use different timber, different shapes of the timber out of the ground. So
So boomerangs, when you throw them, they come back, correct?
Yeah, a lot of them do. I mean, the killer boomerangs don't come back.
No.
But the proper throwing boomerangs to imitate birds and stuff would fly around and would return.
Oh, so that way you could use them more than once, is that right?
Yeah, you could use them more than once, I guess, yeah.
Could you literally throw one in the air and then have it return and catch it in your hand? Would that be possible? Or wouldn't it like slice through your hand?
No, basically with Aboriginal people, you'd actually clap the boomerang into your hand and move your hand with it. So instead of you catching it with one hand and going, I'm going to catch
your hand off.
That's what I was saying.
It really hurt your fingers
How
doing
could
that.
you catch it?
Yeah, I've seen non-Indigenous people throw. They have boomerang competitions all over the world, throwing boomerang competitions, and basically they catch them and stuff like that. But Aboriginal people, the way I've seen them do it personally myself, through travelling across Australia and whatnot, when they have thrown them, is catching them into their hands. So basically getting their hands, and as it's coming back around and spinning and flying, clapping it into their hands and moving their hands in a motion.
Right.
So instead of actually, hitting their fingers and breaking their fingers or cutting their fingers or anything. Because some of them are very sharp. Boomerangs can be very, very sharp. And I mean, flying at the speeds that they do, you can only imagine with the rotation, the rotation that it'd have.
You don't want to throw a boomerang and hit it in the head or something.
You don't want to be hitting the head with
pretty bad.
No, you don't want to be hitting the head with a boomerang. No, absolutely not. I know I wouldn't anyways.
No way. So we're talking about Aborigines hunting now, which is a great sort of thing. So, because Christina and I both the paleo diet.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine the traditional Aborigines were quite paleo.
Yeah, they were quite paleo. Like Aboriginal people had a really diverse connection to different foods of the land. So they had a lot of healthy things, rich and strong in protein. So like, they'd eat witchetty grubs, honey ants, they'd gather honey from beehives. What else? Kangaroo, echidna, goanna, emu, all sorts of different birds, water birds, things like that. So their diet was pretty
quite
good.
a diverse diet. Did they have many vegetables though? Because I mean, when you imagine Aborigines out in the desert, you just think about
kangaroo
meat.
jumping by.
Yeah, they eat bush yams and stuff like that. So like different, traditional bush tomatoes, native tomatoes that grow in Australia. So,
really?
Yeah,
wow. So
different,
right?
different kind of bush yams and stuff like that, berries and things like that, seeds out of certain things. So like they had a pretty diverse, diet, to say the least.
And I guess it depends what part of Australia you live in too.
Yeah, I mean,
up north there'd be a lot more food.
And it's different. I don't know a lot about their diets up in different parts of Australia, but I do know for a fact that our diets would vary from the diets of, say, someone in the Nullarbor or up into the Northern Territory, because where my country is from, in Wiradjuri country in New South Wales, our diet was mainly fish, goanna, kangaroo, and a couple of other things. So,
what's the most unusual Aboriginal food you've tried?
But the most unusual, I'd have to say, witchetty grubs. I don't think they're unusual.
I'd like to try witchetty grubs.
I'm quite used to them. I've eaten them myself a couple of times. They're actually really rich in protein for you and really healthy.
I've heard they taste like peanut butter.
They taste like peanut butter when they're cooked on a barbecue or something like that. But they're really, really nice.
Goanna, you tried goanna?
Yeah, I've tried goanna.
What's goanna like?
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's a bit tough. But yeah, it's like I said, it's really rich in
protein. They'd be hard to catch. I mean, they've got big claws.
They're very.
You wouldn't muck around with goanna, would you?
Very sharp claws, and they've got really razor sharp teeth. So you don't really want to be bitten by one of them.
No,
so they've got bacteria in their teeth.
Yes. How would you catch a goanna?
Oh, look, a lot of Aboriginal people would use clubs. They'd hide behind trees, sneak up on them, do different things, burn off the land, and basically chase them, off the desert plains and stuff like that. So they do things.
They did a lot of burning off the land.
Yeah, burning off the land,
which regenerates the forest.
Regenerates it, but also kind of corners the animals to come into a certain section where the people would gather them or hit them over the head with a club or do something like that, or even with a spear. Say, if the fire's burning that way and the kangaroos have only got one way to go, they're only going to more or less jump straight into you, not into the fire. So So
was that part of their tactics for hunting? A
lot of their tactics for hunting when they hunted in massive groups and parties, hunting parties and stuff like that. So that was one of their tactics.
What size were most tribes?
Yeah, look, they'd vary. Across Australia, I know for a fact, like tribes weren't, like say for instance, my tribe being the Wiradjuri people and the Pinjara people and so many other different tribes, the Kamilaroi people and a lot of main tribes that are well known across Australia, they actually had a lot of clans that existed inside tribes. So there would be,
So what's a clan? A clan's like a family?
Clan would be a family.
Extended family?
Like a little individual group.
Like
Because they weren't like mum, dad and 2 kids, were they?
No, it wasn't just like that. And they'd have their little hut there, and then down the riverbank there'd be another one.
So it's like communities,
they'd have little communities. So
within
a tribe, there could have been anywhere between 40 to 50 different clans, and those clans would have been made up between 20 to 30 people in the clans.
And with the tribes and the clans, was there one leader of the whole tribe, like a chief or elder or something?
Yeah,
or was
there was a
witch doctor or...
Yeah, no, there was Aboriginal elders within different tribes, and they basically made decisions. And
was it a bunch of them or just one?
Yeah, well, there'd be a bunch of them actually, because they'd go to meet with each other in different parts of the country and basically discuss issues or conflicts that may have arisen, marriages and stuff like that, where they'd marry, other...
So marriages were arranged?
Yeah, a lot of them were within Aboriginal culture.
Yeah, so basically, you're saying your father would say, "Okay, you're going to marry that girl there, done."
Yeah,
you didn't get to choose, did you? You didn't go to a corroboree, have a bit of a dance, meet a girl.
No,
They
didn't have a family get together or stuff like that. No. But no, through ceremonies and stuff like that, and different things, they'd make decisions. So Aboriginal elders would, have the right to make decisions on behalf of the tribe, what was in the best interest.
So the man would have only one wife or more than one wife?
In some places, they'd have more than one wife, so they'd have a couple. So
was that the richer you are, the more wives you have, or more powerful?
I think it was more so because of the fact of the significance of the person, whether they were able to have as many wives as they wanted to in those days. So which I only found out a couple of years about myself, that they were allowed to have more than one wife. So. Yeah.
So going back to the marriage thing, was it purely like for politics, and was there a lot of strategy involved with teaming up the right people to be married if they wanted, peace between a certain clan and another clan?
Yeah, look, between different Aboriginal tribes, they did have conflicts between different tribes. So, and different clans, they'd have conflicts all the time. And that would be because of the fact that a young girl would probably fall in love with a young boy from a different clan, and their families didn't probably see eye to eye. So it was more or less basically, keeping the bloodline of Aboriginal people going, I guess, to, not basically interbreed with one another more so.
Did they ever kidnap girls from other tribes? A lot of tribes did that.
Yeah, look,
with lots of cultures.
They say that happened in a lot of different tribes across Australia. It may have. I'm not too sure. So on something like that, I couldn't really answer. But I'd imagine that probably did happen in some places.
Because in most tribal societies, that's what they did. Now, the witch doctor.
Yeah.
Tell me about the witch doctor.
Witch doctors. Look, there's
all these stories about witch doctors.
Stories about witch doctors. Yeah, there's many different stories. I mean, they've got a thing called a witch doctor. Aboriginal culture has a thing called the Kadaj man, which is a man that basically, punishes people for doing wrong things, and he basically turns up and is a spirit that basically has feathers on his feet, and they call him the Featherfoot. And for him to, there'd be so many stories told by Aboriginal elders and people through tribes about the knowledge of this man and how he basically roamed the land and do what he did. So he could, paraform or whatever they'd call it into different animals and basically, be a crocodile or be an emu or be a kangaroo or a bird or something.
Was this a story about the guy, or do people actually think he exists?
No, he actually, like in our culture, our people strongly believe in the Kadach man and the Featherfoot and stuff.
Did each tribe have a witch doctor though?
Oh, they'd have a medicine man.
Yeah,
that would basically acquire different certain techniques to heal people. Yep. And basically what that would mean is basically through bush medicine and the healing of the spiritual connection that our people hold to the land. So with our culture, with Aboriginal culture abroad across Australia, there was strong belief in our culture that we were connected to the land, and what we would take from the land would give back to us. So, and basically we maintain that connection, but also
you lived very symbiotic with the land.
Yeah, absolutely. In one with the land.
Yes, traditional hunter-gatherers.
Yeah.
The other thing is, the one thing about witch doctors, I've heard this stories when I was a kid, where a witch doctor could point a bone at someone.
Yes.
And they'll die.
Didn't John Howard get the bone pointed at him?
I think something like that happened.
And he was cursed or something?
He was cursed. So I've heard the same thing.
So I've heard that people actually die from getting the bone pointed.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know too much about the bone being pointed, but there is, stories about if they point the bone at you, absolutely, that you would be cursed. Or,
I guess that's like a placebo. You'd believe it, and you'd happen to you.
Absolutely. And like I said, with our Aboriginal culture, we strongly believed the stories of what our ancestors would tell us, so that would coincide with the future generations to come that would learn these stories, such as children walking off into the bush by themselves. The Aboriginal elders would tell them stories about, the featherfoot or the people that live in the bush that, aren't so friendly. So, scary stories like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the Aborigines were living happy along the place, they'd have the interwar wars and everything else like that. But 40, 50,000 years, and then I think it was 1776, Captain Cook came up and discovered Australia for the third time, because other people had discovered it before that.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that?
Yeah, look.
Once the white man came to Australia.
Yeah, colonisation obviously took place, and basically, like the Europeans, I'd prefer to use the term invaded Australia, as they didn't come here willingly to make peace with the natives, which they were in fact instructed to do by their superiors at the time.
They were.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were in fact told to make peace with the Aboriginal people, and also coincide with the way that they lived off the land, and also learn and respect their ways, but they never did take place. But
they were convicts. They weren't very good at doing as they're told.
So look, that's what took place, and 1776 I think it was. Yeah.
There was a lot of conflict between the settlers and the traditional landowners. Yeah,
there's a lot of conflict. I mean, for years and century, over decades, spanning on 10, 15 years from colonisation, Aboriginal people were murdered on the land. A lot of Aboriginal people lost their lives. Children were murdered. Women were raped. It's not really spoken about in today's society.
No,
and it's. I think when people look back on it and they really do, look into the history of Aboriginal culture, they actually realise that, wow, a genocide has taken place on this continent.
Especially in Tasmania.
Absolutely. I mean, there's people now claiming that Aboriginal people are completely wiped out and eradicated out of Tasmania.
That's the story I heard as well.
That's the story that people hear all the time.
Apparently they all walked across the island one day and just killed everyone.
And killed everyone.
But I mean, it's a big island.
It's a big island. I mean, Aboriginal people hid in the bush and stuff like that. I mean, it's
a horrible thing.
It's a horrible thing. And I mean, to be back in those days, to be proud to go and say, okay, we've just eradicated a civilization of people that lived humbly on the land.
That's disgusting.
Minding their own things. Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. So, I mean, when we have things like Sorry Day, I think it needs to be more of a widely known event for people to actually celebrate and know what we're actually sorry about, because within Aboriginal people, we don't expect people to just be sorry and say sorry to us. It's about the fact that they're taking notice of what has actually happened.
Yeah,
I think
acknowledging the atrocities.
Yeah, the atrocities. And I think that hasn't happened in Australia yet, and it really does.
I don't think a lot of people get it, especially younger generations, because they're so disconnected from the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think within the education systems across Australia, they really need to have a strong look at and make a focus on educating kids, not only just in high schools, but in primary schools also, about Aboriginal culture. I mean, I think me and George in the past had conversations about, education is the most paramount thing for kids to learn in schools.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And history's got a lot to do with
that. Well, the funny thing is, when I was in school in the 70s, and we actually had Aboriginal kids in our school.
Yeah.
That I was quite good friends with. And then one day, they're all gone. So they must have moved into an area or something, which is interesting. But we learned a lot about Aboriginal culture and history. I don't know, maybe that was because we had Aboriginal kids in our school.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate to learn a lot about Dreamtime and what happened to colonisation and things like that. Obviously, they made it sound a lot nicer for us because we were kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, talking about Sorry Day, I mean, John Howard did not want to admit to be sorry.
Yeah.
And then we had Kevin Rudd, who he quite had a lot of courage to do what he did.
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot of courage for him to actually express how he felt about what had actually happened to the traditional landowners.
How did the original people take that?
Yeah, look, it's actually quite a sad day, I think. I mean, a lot of people didn't expect this to actually happen. And I mean, with a Prime Minister being able to say sorry to the traditional landowners, I mean, that's a big step in the right direction for our people. But it's something that means a lot to the people that were a part of the stolen generation. And I don't think a lot of mainstream Australians actually understand what that actually meant for our people.
Talk about the stolen generation, because this podcast's all around the world.
Yeah.
So a lot of people wouldn't even know what this is. So quickly give us tell us what the stolen generation is.
Yeah, what the stolen generation is, basically, stolen generation is a term which is basically used for the fact of how when Australia was colonised, Aboriginal people were taken from their families, basically placed into missionaries, or even...
They wanted to teach them how to be white, didn't they?
Yeah, they basically...
And sort of assimilate them into white society.
They wanted to assimilate us into white society, but also into breed us, so they could basically categorise us out, our blood numbers, as they'd call it, down to a percentage where they would take us from being full blood to half caste to quarter caste to this. And within Aboriginal culture and society today, there's no such thing as that, I believe, anyways. And no one even looks at it like...
Depends what's in your heart,
it's what's in your heart and what you believe and how you've grown up and your connection to your community and your land. So I think that's one step where Australia, white Australia at the time, went really significantly wrong in the wrong direction. And 1/18th and things like that. So I don't think that really worked for them. And basically with the stolen generation, getting back onto that, Aboriginal people were put into missionaries, so taken away from their families, their mothers, never to see them ever again. And if they were a part of a family of about 4 or 5 families, or their families, they'd never ever see their families again.
So the kids were literally kidnapped
and also placed into missionaries, and in these missionaries they had to go to church, learn about Jesus, a man on a cross that comes from a different continent. So our traditional beliefs were taken from us. And what a lot of people don't realise is why Aboriginal people today feel an uneasy feeling towards churches and shrines and all these different things. I mean, you got to look at the facts that we were once connected to the dreaming, our connection to our motherland. So for us to learn about, I think it's very sad when I think about it, because I think about the pictures that I've seen of young children handed Bibles and that were tortured and molested and bashed in these orphanages in missionaries. They said that they done it in the name of God. Well, their culture come from another country. So I think it's very sad, to say the least, of that happening.
Yeah.
And it does make me sad to think about it sometimes. But it's just very sad.
There was literally a whole stolen generation that happened to.
And people just think that it happened in one particular place in Australia. It happened all across Australia, even Tasmania, everywhere across Australia. And this went on for years and years. And it didn't just go on for 10 years, 15 years. It went on for over 100 years.
Do you know when they actually stopped taking children?
Yeah, I've got a really strong belief behind that. Well, not a strong belief. I've got my own personal belief behind that, and I still today think that the way the system is designed in Australia, just knowing how the system works, I think
it's capitalism.
Yes, capitalism.
They never got out of the system, and they're still in it.
I think the system is still continuing today. I mean, there are more Aboriginal kids going into out-of-home care now than there ever was before in the past. So I think it's...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think that more Aboriginal kids are going into out-of-home care and stuff like that. But, personally myself, it did stop many, many years ago where child services could rock up to a house or rock up to a place and go, okay, we're taking your kids for no unknown reason. In today's society, they're going to state actual reasons and their concerns and things like that. And what's basically better than that is they have to now liaise with Aboriginal communities with issues that happen in child services. So, there's
So a bit more protection.
Yeah, it's a bit more protection for Aboriginal people, and we've got a little bit more rights. But in saying that, there are still things in the system that do need fixing. I think personally myself, the way it's designed. So
there's 2 Australian dates that I'll talk about.
Yeah.
And the first one I'll talk about is Anzac Day.
Yeah.
Because last Anzac Day, you did a post that went viral.
Yeah.
And we had how many 100,000 shares?
Yeah, I had over 50,000 shares.
50,000 shares.
50,000 shares.
Wow.
Like that happened in one day, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it happened basically in one day.
Yeah.
And it just started off like with an idea where I sat on the lounge and I just thought about a lot of the Aboriginal soldiers that weren't fortunate enough to have their names written on plaques around and memorials.
Well, see, I didn't even know until that day.
Yeah.
That because when I saw that day, because Anzac Day is about remembering the Australians that fought in Gallipoli, and bravely we lost a lot of people. Unfortunately, it was a very sad day for Australia. We celebrate the sacrifices that people put into for Australia, and the thing is, no one really knows, but there was Aborigines involved there as well, weren't there?
Absolutely.
So
a lot of Aboriginal people were
what were they in? They were in the war, in the army? What happened?
Yeah, they were in the army. They were frontline soldiers like anyone else. They
really?
went over and served as a purpose and were conscripted to go.
Did they get drafted or they chose to go?
No, they were drafted and told that they had to go.
Yep.
A lot of them were, and a couple of them, I don't know.
Because, they were across the world fighting this war they didn't know nothing about.
Nothing about it, absolutely. So they were fighting for a war which basically... and fighting for a country where they didn't have the same rights as what the other people in Australia did, the white Australians did. So it was quite a sad time, and basically a lot of those things go through my mind constantly when I think about Aboriginal men getting the acknowledgement that they need. And I think
have they been acknowledged now?
Yeah, no, it's getting better as the years go on. I do find it is getting better because there's more and more stories coming out. There's more and more people and families coming out with stories. So there's so much more that's coming out, and
there's more evidence,
and there's more evidence that we did serve, and we need more acknowledgement in it because it shouldn't have taken this long for Aboriginal men to have their names put on memorials. There are people in different communities and across Australia. I take my hat off to them and commend them for the efforts that they're doing to ensure that they're not forgotten. Because my post personally was about lest we forget the forgotten ones, and a lot of people actually stood back and actually commented on it. And I thought to myself, I think Australia needs to hear this. So when I did do this post, all my friends shared it. Their friends shared it, and just went on and on. It went viral. And I didn't do it to get attention or anything like that. I just wanted to do a post so people could take notice of it.
It's amazing how powerful social media is.
It's amazing how powerful it is, and what you can actually learn on it today. Because the naked truth behind a lot of different things can be aired on social media.
Yep, the ugly truth.
The ugly truth, and it's so ironic that I'm actually here with you guys sitting on this lounge.
The ugly truth.
The ugly truth is coming out. So absolutely. Yeah, it's good.
The truth can be beautiful, but at first it can be ugly when you don't understand it. So there's another date in Australia which I suppose is very emotional for the Aboriginal people and the Aboriginal nation. Yeah, and that is Australia Day.
Yeah, Australia Day. Look,
because that's
there's 2 different ways you can look at it. Within Aboriginal people, we call it, a lot of Aboriginal people, I should say, not everyone.
Yep.
Call it Invasion Day. And then you get a lot of people that call it Australia Day, where we celebrate a day where colonisation took place and Captain Cook arrived on the shores and everything
had
happened.
A cup of tea on the beach. And said hello to the Aborigines.
Yes, and it never went down like that. And it's a day. I think as Australians, we need to look at the day that it's set. And understand what we're actually people are actually celebrating.
There's a lot of controversy because Australia Day is a controversial day anyway. I mean, we had the Cronulla riots where we had a lot of ethnics and a lot of Aussies having a big fight over Cronulla and who's going to control the beaches.
Yeah.
Australia Day is also, I guess, people with the Australian flag. Some people almost think it's a little bit racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To fly the Australian flag. Australia.
But it is Australia Day. It is Australia. But we've got to. So it's a tough call because I get different sides of it.
Because most people think when you think Australia Day, you think of getting together with your friends and family.
and having some lamb,
having
And
some
some-
alcohol,
Having a barbecue or
having
something,
a party.
having some sausages on the
Yeah.
barbecue.
Yeah.
Look, with Aboriginal people, I'll just nut this out right now. We look at it as a day, as an invasion, where a country was invaded, which it was invaded, and people came to our shorelines, not peacefully. So, it's a day where a lot of things started from that point. It's a starting point of a date. So it's more or less a celebration of a date where it's the starting point of where our people had our rights taken away from us. And that's what people don't realise.
So very tough emotional day. So
Yeah.
what do we do? I mean, some people propose change it, other people say don't. And
I think personally it does need to be looked at being changed.
and some small towns have changed it.
Yep.
I think in Western Australia.
Yeah, in Western Australia they have.
Yes, they have. Yes.
Yeah,
What do they
changed the
change
date.
it to?
But some councils, a different date.
Just a different
Yeah.
date, and they don't celebrate it on that date. And I think that's beautiful because they're actually respecting not just the Aboriginal people, but they're actually respecting the fact that they're making it inclusive to everyone, not just Aboriginal people, but everyone. That the fact that, hang on, we're not going to celebrate this because we're not going to leave them out.
Yep.
So I believe personally that Australia is leaving our people out by not making them inclusive of the day that we feel it's Invasion Day.
Yep.
So they need to look at that.
So basically, what you're saying is, if we could change the date to something that's not as emotionally charged,
Yeah.
as a day when
Absolutely.
you got your whole continent taken over,
Yeah.
where then we can all celebrate together and be proud to be Australian and celebrate Australia
Absolutely.
and have fun.
And I mean, as Australians, I mean, we talk about being inclusive to all different nationalities. I mean, if we're going to be inclusive to all nationalities, we're going to be inclusive to Aboriginal people as well. So if we feel something strongly against that, let's have the discussion
Yep.
and nut something out and basically look at changing that date because
Maybe we found Kevin Rudd in power.
Oh,
He'd
mate,
probably-
I wish Kevin Rudd was still around.
I don't think Turnbull's going to change
I
the
mean,
date.
I don't think Turnbull's going to. I mean, I don't.
We
think
need someone very progressive to be able to do that.
someone very
don't we?
progressive to do it. And I mean, Turnbull has said a lot of things, and it's only talk. But at the end of the day, I think shedding some tears over the stolen generation. I think more needs to be done. I mean, I've watched a lot about how Malcolm Turnbull, he conducts himself towards Aboriginal people and stuff like that. But I think there's more that needs to be done. I think that sitting there saying I'm sorry, for what those families must have been through, isn't enough.
Not good enough,
It's not good
yeah.
enough. So I think more needs to be done.
So do you think how?
Yeah.
I mean, because I think changing the date would be a massive step forward, having everyone inclusive.
Absolutely.
How can you start a grassroots campaign? How can you do something that might be able to do something? This could be big.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I mean,
What are your thoughts?
Across Australia, like Aboriginal people have different festivals now where we're having celebrations.
Because we need to choose another date. That's the
Yeah,
hard part. 'Cause
yeah.
everyone needs to say, okay,
I mean,
not this date, but let's choose a date. Because
I
you
mean,
can't just say any date. You know what I mean?
I mean, Aboriginal people are calling it Survival Day because it's a day that it was the commencement date of people arriving on the shorelines to desecrate our people and create a genocide. So in saying that, I mean, like our people are fully aware of history and stuff like that, of what that date actually means. So with Australia knowing that, you think that we should be able to work together and find a solution.
Do you think part of maybe the reason why it's so sensitive for politics to go, yes, okay, we're going to change the date, is because they're scared that maybe no matter what date they pick, it will never keep everyone happy?
You can't keep everyone happy.
No, you can't keep
Yeah.
everyone happy, but personally,
Yeah.
I think it's a right step in the right direction. I mean, if they did look at changing the date, I mean, that it'd be a notion taken by the Aboriginal people that, hang on, we can work together. We can make it.
It's a bit like Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Thanksgiving, yes.
So
Absolutely.
Thanksgiving, I don't think they're going to change that date, America.
No, America's not going to change it, but
Because they quite celebrate what happened in Thanksgiving, don't they?
I do believe in Australia that the date can change.
Yeah, 'cause-
I strongly believe that it can change, and I think in the future it will.
Because the Indians in America probably don't like Thanksgiving Day either, do they?
No, not probably.
Well,
They
that
probably
was their
don't.
invasion
That was
day.
their invasion day.
And
as
when
well.
they all starved and died,
Yeah.
so it was really like... it's funny that a lot of countries have got dark days that they celebrate. Because
Yeah.
you think about Anzac Day, right?
Valentine's
You think
Day.
about Anzac Day.
as well.
We lost a lot of people. Anzac
Yeah, we
Day.
lost a lot of
That was
soldiers.
probably one of the darkest days of our history. And
Absolutely.
we celebrate that day.
Yeah, we
so
do.
it's funny how countries as a whole
Yeah.
celebrate.
But what was Valentine's Day originally? Wasn't that
I think it was a
some
massacre or
massacre
something.
day? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so everything's sort of topsy-turvy.
yeah, like in Macedonia, Illingden is the biggest day there, and that's when we lost 20,000 people fighting against the Turks. So
And that's what you
the big
celebrate.
day, yes.
Yeah.
So it's funny how cultures do that. It's
not
interesting.
an unusual case
Well,
then.
see, Aborigines weren't even allowed to vote for a while.
Yeah.
Like, when did they get the vote? I think Golf Whitlam gave him the vote
I think
because
it was
he
Golf.
gave women the vote,
Yeah.
Aborigines the vote. He did a lot of good things.
Yeah, he
It
did.
was
He
about,
did.
I think
Country.
it's a 67, 68,
60,
something
it was
like
around.
that.
It was in the
Yeah,
60s.
60s.
Anyways, so yeah, he gave them the right to vote.
They couldn't even vote then. Can
Couldn't
you
even
believe
vote.
it?
We basically had the same rights as an animal. Like that's what basically. That's
It's crazy, I know,
and it's not that long ago. If you think about it, logically.
Well-
Like it wasn't that long ago that we're actually given rights to actually vote, live in houses, live in a community with mainstream white Australia. So we were put in places, and what people don't realise, to congregate in an area where only black people would live and white people would live on that side of the fence.
Yes.
And people don't
Oh, so
realise that.
segregated,
So we
yeah.
were all segregated.
Yeah, so
Here in
he
Australia.
was-
same as the American Negroes, same as the
South
American.
Africa. It was apartheid
Yeah,
almost.
it's
Like,
apartheid.
this,
It
is the
was.
funny, this is the funny thing. My father, when he emigrated from Macedonia, he came in the mining he was in Kalgoorlie, right? And then he wrote a letter to my mum to get her to come down. Can't believe he wrote a letter and had to wait 6 months to get a letter back and say, I'll meet you at the port at such and such a date. Like, man, would you have to be reliable and have a lot
Yeah.
of faith to do that. But what happened was they met this couple there, and one of them, my godfather, and my father's Montenegrin.
Oh.
So quite tall, dark,
Yeah.
big lips, curly hair. Anyway, so when they used to catch a train, what would happen is they'd get in the train and they'd take him out the train and put him in another carriage with the black
Yeah.
people.
Wow.
Right?
'Cause he was so
and,
dark.
And so what happened was until my parents moved here, he thought it was because he was a man and he thought men and women weren't allowed in the same carriage.
Wow.
But then when my father was here, because my
Okay.
father was
Yeah,
allowed
yeah.
to sit with him, they finally realised, hold on a second, it's not because he's a man, it's because they think he's Aboriginal.
They think he's Aboriginal.
Wow.
So they actually made him go in another carriage. So we're talking about how drugs and alcohol has affected a lot of society in Australia,
Yep.
and a lot of the lower socioeconomic communities, including a lot of Aboriginal communities.
Yeah.
And
And basically, what I was saying is it's been introduced to them.
Yeah,
So
well,
they
look.
didn't have, the petrol or the alcohol
Yeah.
available.
Yeah, look, in Australia, like a lot of people have got their, little different opinions, and a lot of people that are, in fact, racist. I don't like to use that word, but they use all these different derogatory terms that we're petrol sniffers and that we're all these different things.
But
And
how did they
dole
get access to it? They were
Yeah.
introduced.
Yeah, well, I mean, alcohol didn't just eventuate or come from the land here in Australia, and we developed it.
no, because Aborigines didn't have any alcohol.
No,
did they?
we never had alcohol. or
Any
things like that.
types of drugs or hallucinogenics?
No. They used
Because I know a lot of traditional
Yeah.
societies did have,
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that, about the hallucinogenics and stuff like that. But I know for a fact that when colonisation did take place here in Australia, Aboriginal men, for 100 years, or I think it was about 80 years down the track from colonisation, they would be working on farms and used as slaves to build different farms and do things. And they didn't get a pay like, other people got a pay. They would be given flour or beer or different things, and it was something that was introduced to our people. So it wasn't something that we just woke up one day and went, hang on, we're going to become full-blown raving alcoholics and go and do all these different things. And that's where
Yeah, well, see, so
That's
the
what-
Aboriginal people as society didn't have really any tolerance to alcohol.
We didn't have
So
accept-
you look at the Europeans, they've had alcohol for thousands of years.
They evolved with
and
it,
basically water was so bad in Europe that you had to, when you had water, you poured a bit of alcohol in it, otherwise you die from it.
Wow.
So they were used to having alcohol in the system the whole time for generation after generation after generation.
Yeah.
Where suddenly the Aboriginal people go from nothing to suddenly, bang, here's alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, it's what a lot of people need to look at is over the progression of time in Australia, there has been so many links added to the links that we have existing. So from the beginning of time since colonisation, if you look right back to the start of every turning point in this country, how we have progressed and what the atrocities that have taken place. And this is not making an excuse, but this is actual truth. You think about the links that are getting made every single time an atrocity takes place. So a massacre, you watch your mother and father be murdered, or you're taken away through the stolen generation. You know, their parents are traumatised by that. So all the different turning things, turning points in history.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a progression.
It's generational.
It's a generational thing, and the effect has taken place.
Goes on to the next generation.
So how do we stop it? I mean, obviously, a lot of that's not happening now, which is good. Yeah. And we've got a lot of famous Aboriginal people that have become very successful.
We've got a lot of athletes.
Give us a few examples.
Politicians. Oh, look, I aspire to her anyways. Novus Paris, Nebo, and she's a really good lady herself in politics. And I think she's spoken a lot on Aboriginal culture and things like that, and the significance of our people. So I think her heart's in absolutely the right direction of where our people are going. But yeah, look, we've got Kathy Freeman, a lot of different sporting people. It's not just sporting people. We've got influential people that have, like Charles Perkins and many other, like Eddie Marbo. Like, I don't just look to athletes or anything like that. I look at these people that have fought for our rights in this country, that have really placed us in a position to have the rights that we've got today, because without what they've done in the past, and I don't think it's widely enough accepted or recognised, we wouldn't be standing in the places that we're standing in today. And that's absolutely right.
There's been a lot of people that put the hard yards in. I mean, when Aborigines with the Marbo whole thing, there was a lot of controversy.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people were against that.
Absolutely.
Because people weren't educated. Because people thought, shit, Aborigines are just getting all this free land. You know what I mean?
They didn't realise that the significant cultural attachment that we've got to it. See, people think that Aboriginal people just want land, and we've got an attachment to the land. We are connected to the land.
That land.
We are part of the land. The land is a part of us. So it's just like anything that, with our culture, our cultural practices and beliefs, we believe that if we take from the land will give to us if we give back to the land. So we come from the land and we go back to the land. So we never had the belief of Jesus and stuff like that where we go and pray in churches, and that's what the stolen generation of people went through.
So, because obviously the Aboriginal people had the dream time.
Yep.
And then there was a lot of people promoting them to become Christians.
Yeah.
What are they now? Are Aboriginal people Christian?
Yeah, look.
Dreamtime. What sort of religion are they? In general, as a whole.
Yeah, look. There's still a lot of Aboriginal.
It's an individual.
No, I'm curious. But
I think it's more of a personal preference of what you want to believe in today.
Absolutely.
And I mean, everyone's got the right to believe in what they want in mainstream society. I believe, anyways. But I mean, with Christianity and all that kind of stuff, I mean, that was forced upon our people, and people don't widely enough recognise that.
Yeah.
It wasn't just something that we were given a choice to.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact, personally, that we weren't given a choice. We were told that we had to go to church, convert, sing songs in the name of the Lord, and children and stuff like that. So,
if you look at America, you've got those black towns where they all get in church and they sing, and they get really into it. Like, they created their own sort of Christian culture, which is pretty strong.
Yeah, American Negroes had churches and pastors that would talk about Jesus and stuff like that. And look, I'm not against religion or anything like that. Like, each to their own. Like, believe what you want to believe. But my personal belief is, like, where I come from, I've got a strong connection to my land and the river. So where my belief is that when my time is done on this continent, that I'll go back to my spirit home, which is the river, and that's where I'm going.
Yep.
So that's my connection to the land. I don't mean to be rude to anyone, but I don't believe that our Lord Saviour Jesus Christ on a cross died for my sins or anything like that, because I've learned a lot about my culture in the last 25 years or nearly 30 years through my family and relatives and other Aboriginal elders, and I've learnt the connection of what I do have with my connection with my culture. Like, I understand it more so now than what I ever did when I was a kid growing up.
And what makes their religion the right one and
exactly
the wrong
right.
one,
And that's what made me question a lot of things. I thought to myself, when I was about 14, 15, how can that, a religion that took place in another country be more prevalent than our culture that is diminishing day by day. And I thought to myself, you know what, like, I'm going to research my culture more when I was a kid, and I did, and I found out more and more hidden links that I'd never ever known, and that I'd find out from different Aboriginal elders from different parts of Australia. And it was so intriguing to me that I developed and conformed my own belief that, you know, I believe that, you know, I'm connected to the land, and I believe in the stories of what our ancestors have done before us. So, yeah, I'm really connected to it.
That's awesome.
Yep. So, Aborigines in custody.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's talk about that, because that's been controversial, because as a percentage of population, Aborigines are way overrepresented in jail.
Yeah. Look, we make up, I don't know, look, Aboriginal people make up about 4% of the population. That'd be pushing it.
Not a lot.
But yet I think we represent up to 65 to 70% of all prisons across the board. That's across the board. So we are the most overrepresented race of people. So clearly in Australia we've got a problem in that. I mean, there's got to be a problem in that. So I mean, I don't believe enough's been done with that. I mean, with services that are being provided to help assist Aboriginal people, and I don't think that the justice system is in fact fair across the board in Australia by any means. I mean, if you look at the Don Dale scenario that took place up in the Northern Territory, of those boys that were put into that the detention centre, they were tortured.
Yeah. So tell us more about this, because people listening probably don't know about Don Dale.
Yeah, Don Dale is a youth detention centre up in the Northern Territory, where it was aired on the ABC here in Australia, where Aboriginal boys were tortured. And
how specifically were they tortured?
Well, look, they were chucked into rooms with no clothes, stripped of their clothes, deprived of their liberties to go to the toilet. They were made to drink out of a toilet. They were locked in rooms for 72 hours in 42-degree heat.
Wow.
So in really hot conditions.
Wow.
So this took place for a very long time, and before this came out, it's absolutely atrocious to think that these boys are going to re-offend later on down the track, because they're mentally scarred.
Yeah.
So people don't really realise the significance, like I'm talking about before, about the links in the system
So once that's happened, it's going to be easy for them to do it again. And unfortunately, when they see police officers, they want to go punch on. They're not going to be happy. You know
and that's why Aboriginal youth find it hard to relate to police officers today, because the way the system is, I mean, it's not designed in a way to be really friendly. I mean,
have Northern Territory sort of started recruiting Aboriginal police officers to try to build that bridge?
They actually have,
because I've noticed that when I was
in the Northern Territory, they're trying.
Is that good? Or is that a good step
I think that's a positive thing. Personally, myself, I think that's a positive by getting Aboriginal people to join the police force and stuff like that. But I think, like I said, more needs to be done in the way of youth of the generations to come, because I mean, with youth that are in detention centres, they're going to re-offend if they're backed into corners and constantly treated like dirt below people's feet. So I think that's the generations to come. We need to really look at the purposes of teaching these boys cultural things, more so than sitting them down in a room and saying, we need to counsel you and why are you the way you are. We need to go back to the start. I think with Aboriginal culture, we need to be put up on the forefront of helping get our children back from detention centres and taking them out bush and doing cultural things to connect them to their culture, which they're disconnected to, because that's the way it is in society. Kids want to play Xbox 360s and stuff like that, and play pool and do different things. I think with Aboriginal culture, I think we need to step it up and do more programs across Australia with Aboriginal kids to teach them about the preservance of Aboriginal artefacts such as rock paintings, stories of the dreaming, all these many different things that we can show them. But we need Australia to be behind us to do that, and we need to get that ball rolling, I think.
And I think once you give a kid, more purpose in life and connecting them to their culture will do that.
Absolutely.
That's going to get them on the right path.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a really big thing that I've touched on when I've spoken at events and stuff like that people should really look at using our cultural methods and our culture to help our kids that are in the justice system before they get to the age of where they're 18 and 19 and they're stuck in jail, because it's a cycle. It's a cycle that's going round and round, and Australia's talking about ways and solutions to fix it. Let our people be more included in the decision-making processes that go on with our people. Because people say that, oh yeah, Aboriginal people are consulted, but they're only consulted on a level where they're given opinions. We should be consulted on a level where we are making the decisions with Australian governments and the federal and state government for things that are taking place. That's the best scenario that I can suggest to anyone to help our people move forward.
So do you feel the Aborigines are losing their culture?
No, I don't personally. I don't.
Or do you think it's changed now? People are gaining it more, or what's happening there?
I think personally, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, people across the world don't know a lot about our culture. They don't know how old it is. I think in Australia it's not widely spoken enough about. I believe that universities need to take another step to the level of, you know, talking about history here in Australia before talking about history over in Germany, about a war that took place in Germany. I think about educating our people here in Australia first about the history of what's actually taking place here would be much more beneficial for someone learning in university about history. So, you know, and I mean, that's talking about our culture, and I don't think that's being met in Australia. Absolutely not.
Yeah, well, I can personally say that I went to university, and as part of our subjects, we had to take Aboriginal studies.
Good.
But everyone was like, "Oh no, please!"
You don't want to learn. Yeah, no.
But then I actually did it because I didn't have a choice, and I really enjoyed it, and it was really eye-opening, and it really changed my perception of the way I thought about things and things that have happened to Aboriginal people.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an eye-opener. I mean, I do workshops all the time with high school students, university students, and a lot of people, I watch them walk in the rooms and their facial expressions, you know, this is going to be boring, when are we going to talk about it, what he's going to say.
They're like, oh God,
or stuff like that. But no, it's really good because I like explaining to people, you know, things that they don't know, because not a lot of people know what the history behind it. And it shouldn't take me being like to educate people. It should be a widely done thing across Australia, not just.
So I think UniSA have got it really right, where they're actually making it mandatory as part of people's study to do a course on Aboriginal culture and history.
Absolutely. I think
we actually have someone who's part Aboriginal come in and talk about, you know, the stolen generation, what's happened, and how they didn't have the resources that European people.
Yeah, I think that's a right step in the right direction. I mean, that's something that needs to happen, not just here in South Australia, but, you know, elsewhere in other states. And it needs to happen. I mean, the sooner that happens, the positive vibes of you know, how we're going to progress in the future are going to start taking place, you know. I think, you know, once everyone's on the same page, because we're not on the same page here in Australia, I believe anyways.
So a lot of Aboriginal communities are advocating for, in the Aboriginal communities, to have the Aboriginal justice system instead of the Australian justice system. Right? And like I think there was a case where one guy, I don't know what he did, he murdered someone or something, and they were going to put a spear through his leg, like that. So tell me more about that, about having that separate law, because it's quite controversial at the moment, because obviously we've got Muslims coming here saying they want Sharia law. But I mean, they're not the original custodians of the land. I mean, what about this Aboriginal law?
With all that stuff about Sharia law and stuff like that, I mean, I really haven't paid much attention to it. And I do know where they're coming through, where they want their own laws brought here. I mean, they do their things where they bless the meat. What is it? They bless the meat.
Well, that's
halal and stuff like that. So they're building temples and shrines. But I think we need to be put at the forefront of things. I mean, our law existed on this land before the white man came. I mean, our laws do need to be looked at.
So in regards to Aboriginal law, do you think having Aboriginal law on Aboriginal community is the way to go, or Australian law, or both, or how?
Look, I think Aboriginal laws, our law needs to be looked at because it worked. I mean, people didn't go around stealing. People didn't go around murdering people. People didn't go around having ice or
I mean,
alcohol.
let's face it,
different
the
things.
laws are pretty harsh.
The laws are pretty harsh.
Like,
I mean,
getting a
you don't
spear.
want to get a spear through your leg.
So why would someone get a spear through their leg, and what would happen there? Tell me.
Yeah, like stealing. What else?
Do they hold your leg and shove a spear or throw it at you, or what?
No. They'd throw it at you, and they'd make sure that it goes through your leg, straight through. So, and
that could hit an artery.
It could hit an artery. You could
your
bleed
bone.
out. It was just the luck of the bone, luck of the.
How would they heal out there in the middle of the outback? Like,
would
they die off that, or
they'd be able to preserve the wound or whatever with different leaves.
Sounds
and stuff
nasty.
like that.
Sounds
And it
nasty.
is nasty. But look, the Aboriginal law, I think that's something that's been taken away from us. We need to get that back because it actually works. And children and Aboriginal children of today don't know anything about our history of our law and how it actually worked. So Aboriginal elders talk about it, when they're talking to the younger generation about our laws and how they actually worked, where you would get a spear in the leg, or you would be banished from a tribe, or
what other punishments were there?
or being banished from a tribe.
Getting your teeth filed out or something?
Yeah, different things. There was different punishments.
Yeah.
and a very.
So how would you codify that?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be hard.
I know.
And who chooses it? Like,
with the
I mean,
humane rights campaigns that go on.
you know what I mean? I reckon it'd be. I don't think it'd be very easy.
It'd be pretty hard, but I'll tell you now, like,
Because you think if you put a spear through someone's leg, you could probably end up in jail for doing that.
you could probably end up doing it. But yeah, I mean, the justice system here in Australia needs to have a look at it. I mean, our laws existed for thousands of years. I mean, a civilization of people do not survive in Australia for thousands of years without something going right. So with Aboriginal culture, we had to have done something right to maintain the level of balance on the land that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what people need to understand when they think about Aboriginal people being not fit enough when colonisation took place in this land. They've only been here for 200 and something years.
Yes.
We were here for thousands of years. So our laws, our ways of living off the land, bringing our families up, looking after our children worked. Because
Yep.
it worked for thousands of years.
Yeah,
And it's proven.
so maybe what you're saying is where Aborigines have got their land, like
Yeah.
let's say Almond Land, for example.
Yeah.
Almond Land's up north of Darwin, and white people aren't allowed to go there. Correct? Unless you get permission.
If they get permission.
Yeah.
I think that's only certain parts of the land.
And people there live traditionally, don't they?
Yeah, they still live traditionally.
And there's even some famous Aboriginals
Yeah.
that were were really rich, but decided to go live there on the land anyway.
Yeah.
Who was that? I saw that documentary about it. It was interesting.
I think it might have been David Gull, if I'm
Could have
correct.
been,
Yeah, I'm not too
Yeah.
sure.
So they live off the land there.
Yeah, they live off the land.
And would traditional Aboriginal customs and law prevail there, I suppose?
yeah, it still does. I mean,
Because you wouldn't have police there.
Yeah,
They're not even allowed there.
Yeah, they still live by the ceremonies of the Aboriginal elders would make decisions about the community, what would be in the best interest of people that needed to be, looked at having justice served upon them or different things like that. So I think, that, those different ways of giving rights back to Aboriginal elders and significant people in the communities across Australia, not just in the Arnhem Land, it needs to happen across Australia. That's a really important thing because Aboriginal communities, we know how to deal with Aboriginal people, our own people, and I don't think we're given enough rights to actually express the ways of our culture.
Do you think that there would be some sort of a clash though with human rights and
There would be. Totally.
Absolutely.
basic human standards?
But Aborigines on their own land, on their own reservations, because for want of a better word, I don't know what it's called, because in America it's called reservations.
Yeah.
Then they have the traditional way of living there, and that's just the way it is.
where the law doesn't affect them.
Yeah, because that's their own law. It's their own country. It's their own society.
Don't you think if it was to be released all around Australia, it would create
You
chaos?
couldn't release it around Australia.
There'd be a lot of chaos.
I don't think it's going to be released all around
You can
Australia.
only have it on reservations.
That's what I'm saying, because
isolated
it doesn't blend with, we've got the justice system where you go to court instead of throwing a spear through someone's
Yeah,
side.
absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think in the decision-making processes that take place in the courts and justice system, that Aboriginal people need to be a part of the decision-making processes. And it's starting to take place now,
Yep.
but it needs to happen across the board because it's just not happening. across Australia.
Yep.
So we need to be more included in those decisions that get made for Aboriginal youth, because that is the reason why our youth are going into mainstream jails. So they're going from juvenile detention centres to, jails at the age of 18. So it's just a transition process, and that's all they know. That's all they know, and that's why we're at the figures of what we're at.
Yes, I understand. I totally agree that something needs to be happen, and I think a lot of it's to do with self-esteem, pride, and community.
I think purpose as well.
And purpose.
Because
you need a purpose.
Totally.
They need
Absolutely.
a goal in life that they can be passionate about and focus on that rather than getting into trouble and doing the wrong thing.
Now, before we finish, I'm going to go off topic.
Okay.
As I do. Okay. This is left field, but I've got to go off topic. I saw this thing the other day. There used to be a show in the 70s with these Aboriginal people, right?
Yep.
They'd go and find these cars that were abandoned.
Wow. Yes.
And what they do,
Is it like Pimp My
what they do is they'd get bits of wood, bits and pieces, and actually make them work and drive from one place to another.
Yeah.
The innovation and the ability to understand how a car works.
Absolutely. I know the TV show you're talking about.
Now, what I'd like to do, ask our production team to put a little clip right here of the show. Just about, what's it called?
Bush Mechanics.
Bush Mechanics.
Bush Mechanics.
Absolutely.
The Bush Mechanics, I am floored.
Brilliant
I'm
show.
floored. These guys are amazing.
Have you watched the whole entire series?
No, but I've seen a little bit of it.
Watch the whole entire
I
series.
cannot believe how good they are.
Watch the rest of it.
I'm
mate.
serious.
Unbelievable.
Yes, I'm glad you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, they are absolutely
The Bush Mechanics.
They are geniuses.
They can get a car that you would look at it and think, no way, and they can get it working.
Wow.
I mean, I'd like to get one of these guys and hire him as my mechanic because I just spent all this money on my Porsche.
Unbelievable. Like the show is really, really good.
Amazing show.
But I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. All I can suggest
I'm going to put a link to Bush Mechanics on this. I have to.
Definitely put a link.
Yep.
Because it's a brilliant show. Like I've watched the whole entire lot of it, and it's really, really good. So
I want to watch it too.
People
I can't
enjoy
wait.
it.
So that's really awesome. I love that. And that's showing real ingenuity.
The ingenuity of how to use things from the land that we wouldn't take for granted. So, most people would sit on the side of the road and go, I'm going to call it an RMA. But these guys, they don't have it in RMAs for, thousands of miles around. So these guys need to pump their tyres up and use certain things like grass and...
They use grass to fill the tyre up.
Yeah, wow. and sap from trees or different things.
It's truly amazing.
It's truly amazing. But I don't want to spoil any more of it.
Yeah,
I just want people to watch it.
I want to get back onto the artefacts now.
Yeah, cool.
Because we're running out of time. This rock here, because these artefacts here, this axe, for example, here, really reminds me of the sort of flint paleo man days. Look at the shape of this, how it's sort of flinted off. Can you tell me more about this and what they use them for and how they made them?
Yeah, basically with this is actually a handheld axe, but it would have been an axe which would have been set into wood. All right. So basically, what this is the starting process, and I've acquired this. This was given to my father by another Aboriginal elder, and this is estimated to be anywhere between 40 to 50,000 years old. Wow. It's one of the oldest pieces of rock that I've ever held in my hand. But I go to workshops all across Australia, showing kids in schools and stuff like that, the different edges of how they made these rocks.
Because it looks like you'd use that to sort of cut.
Yeah, I mean, they've taken different edges off it to cut it, but they've also started grinding it and smoothing it out on one side to make it sharper. So they actually left this, but this was a piece that they were using and were making at the starting point. So it actually wasn't an axe head just yet. So they were just getting to making it. So
so was that going to be like
it was going to be like that. That's what it was originally going to be like.
What would they use an axe for, like this axe here?
Yeah, basically with an axe, they use it to...
What rock is this anyway? What is it made of? It's not flint.
That's volcanic rock.
Volcanic rock, yeah.
Volcanic rock. So
it looks like it's been put together with mud almost.
Yeah, that's a sap.
Probably sap,
and a resin.
So, what would they use these axes for? Like, would they cut out canoes? And
cut out canoes out of trees. I actually took my partner to go and have a look at a heap of canoes the other day, and like I was explaining how they'd use the stone axes to cut them out and basically shape the shape of a canoe and join them together and weave them together and do certain things. So they'd use stone axes basically to get bowls, coolmans, and make cool.
So when they make bowls, they're cooking those bowls or just eating them?
No, they basically just gather things such as water.
So they didn't
berries,
really,
honey ants,
Yeah.
witchetty grubs, all different sorts of things. So instead of carrying it, like in bags, we didn't have bags in those days. We only had coolmans that we could put things into. So just things like that.
So musical instruments.
Yes.
Now the didgeridoo. The didgeridoo, that's a famous, that's one thing Aborigines are known for. One is the boomerang, and the other thing is the didgeridoo, because those two items are probably never made anywhere else in the world.
No.
It's amazing. And now the didgeridoo, where did that originate from?
Yeah, the didgeridoo originated up in North Queensland from the Yidaki people. And basically, with the term didgeridoo, that's actually a term developed by the white man.
Oh, so what's it really called?
It's called the Yidaki.
Oh, Yidaki.
So, So it's called a Yidaki, and basically, what a Yidaki is it's a termite-eaten, hollowed-out piece of wood, which is naturally eaten from the inside out by termites.
All right, because I was wondering how else would you take the inside out? It'd be impossible.
Absolutely, it would be tough.
Oh, so they'd find something that's naturally empty?
No, they wouldn't be able to hollow it out. We didn't have layers. We never had wood layers and stuff like that. But no, look, Aboriginal people, they were very smart. They used stone axes to get the timber and stuff like that. That's how they done it for hundreds and thousands of years.
Wow. And then that culture from Yidaki people spread all around Australia. Not everyone had Yidakis, did they?
They developed the didgeridoo and whatnot, but it spread right across Australia. So many different tribes were, teaching other tribes different things and whatnot. And
what other musical instruments did they use?
We had clapsticks, so pieces of mulga, different things, leaves, branches from trees. So we use those and clap those, use them to sweep around the dirt, dance and stuff like that. So all different things.
And you brought a Yidaki with you, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got my Yidaki here.
Great.
Right here.
Would you be able to show us how it's done?
I would love to.
That'd be great.
Let's
play us out and
play us out
with the Yidaki.
Yidaki,
No worries.
It's like Yahtzee, Yidaki.
All right, I will do that right now.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'll just be careful.